talk about fuels today.
Okay, whatever you say. And look who's here.
Oh yes, our needy little
Again.
dog. Well, this is part number what?
9.
Part 9 of a multiple part series. We don't know what we're going to end with this. This is how and why we prepare part 9. And what we want to talk today is about fuels and fuel storage. We had a viewer ask us about fuel storage a while back, so I thought this would be a good preparation video. So
And we also had someone ask specifically like what kind of fuel we use for our lanterns, which I failed to talk about when I was doing the how we light our home video.
Oh.
And I meant to, but I totally just spaced it off. So we'll talk about that too.
Okay. So where we live is in an area that we could become an island, and we've talked about that in other videos. There's one way, there's just 2 ways into town, and you know, we got multiple bridges. If we have a event where we have a big earthquake or whatnot, or a severe storm, that we have a lot of trees around here, a lot of power lines. So what we do is we try to prepare for those situations when we have multiple power outages. We also had a freezer fail on us a while back, and you know, we were faced with the task of thinking on the spot and trying to figure out what we can do to save all of our meats and vegetables that we had frozen in the freezer. How we prepare as far as the fuels are concerned, we have multiple sources of heating, and we have a heating video that we have out how we heat our home. And just to let everybody know, we are on grid, and we do have public power and public water, but we also try to be very conservative on our usage on those and try to put into practice some of the off-grid independent, self-sufficient type applications as well. And so I think the first thing we could talk about is wood fuels. I'm going to put out a video, me and Heidi are going to put out a video in the future about what types of wood that we burn and how we might store that fuel, and because that is the major source of heat in the wintertime for us. Again, we have electric heaters and different things, but we like to utilize wood heat. We like wood heat because Mrs. Rain can cook on it, and we can heat water on it, and we do all of it.
Clothes.
Yeah, we dry clothes exactly in front of the wood stove.
Dehydrate meats and vegetables and fruits and all kinds of stuff on there, herbs.
Correct.
Before Mr. Rain goes on about some of the different fuels that we use and so on, I do want to reiterate a fact that I brought up in another video and expand on what he said earlier about us becoming an island out here. Well, we have become an island before. One time during a blizzard, the roads on both sides of us were completely blocked. There was no way any trucks could come through with, you know, groceries for our grocery store, our one grocery store, and, you know, and fuel and all whatever. Nothing could get through. Nobody could get out, nobody could come in, and it was like that for about a week. And that was one wake-up call for us. It happened quite a few years back before we got real serious into what we're doing here. And then a few years ago, after we'd already been in this and doing it for some time, we had a road completely get washed out to the south of us, and then to the north of us it was limited down to one lane, so we were almost an island there as well. And so we never know when it can happen. So this is one of the many reasons why we do what we do. Okay,
So
on to fuels.
on to fuels. So I'll talk about the first fuel, and that is just regular gasoline. Any gasoline that you put in your cars or anything like that. What we try to do as far as storage is concerned, we try to keep our
We had eggs.
egg alarm. Anyway, what we do is we try to keep our vehicles at least half full or better. We try to keep them topped off in the event that we have to go for a long period of time without going to the store to get fuel. We keep 50 gallons fuel on site in portable containers, and we also
That's the
people
gasoline.
might gasoline, correct, and people will ask, well, how long can you store gasoline? Well, there's a lot of variables involved with storage of any type of fuel, and that is, you know, you've got humidity, heat, cold. Those three elements right there are a big factor in how one answers that question. We live in a climate that's highly humid, very wet here, and my best answer to that question would be in a constant climate, cool and dry as you can possibly get. You have the option here of purchasing the non-ethanol, the E8 or E10 fuel additives. E10 fuel seems to last a lot less than the ethanol free fuels that you can purchase. Ethanol free fuel is a fuel that will last a lot longer than the E10 ethanol added fuels. I've gone a year without having to use my fuel in storage, but I try to cycle it through every 6 months. We just cycle it through the vehicles, and then we take the cans down to our local gas station that sells ethanol free gasoline, and that's what we use to keep in storage.
And then we date each can from the last time that we filled it up. We just put masking tape on it because masking tape is cheap, and then we just write on it with a permanent marker so we know when the last time it was filled, so we can keep track of the dates and not let it get too old.
Right, time can get away from you, and especially for me. So we just have the wide 2-inch tape. We just put the date on there, and then each time we fill that out, we cross out the date that's used, and then go underneath that date, and then just put the fresh date in. Anyway, that works. That's a really good system. We always maintain, and whenever you have multiple things with storage, you want to rotate your stock, and use what you store, and store what you use. So that is one fuel that we have. Another is propane, and we have about 50 gallons of propane in smaller mobile type cylinders that we use. You know, we have the 5 gallon and we have the 7 gallon. We always keep one on the barbecue that's at least half full or better, and we always keep extra propane around for cooking, heating,
and canning.
And canning.
That's how I do all of my canning.
That is our primary source of heat when it comes to. We have a big turkey fryer. We hook up the propane tank to that, and that's what she uses for all of her canning. We can outside. So
and sometimes in the foyer if it's too rainy outside.
That's right. Yeah.
In the laundry area.
Yeah, we always, you know, by the back door, we keep the back door cracked or the window cracked so we have plenty of ventilation, and that's the same with any of these fuels. I just want to make sure that everybody knows if you're burning fuels like propane or white gas or anything like that, just make sure that you have a fire extinguisher handy and you are well ventilated. And that's kind of a tough thing, because if you're trying to heat with kerosene or anything like that inside the house, well, you're trying to keep the cold out and the heat in. But it's very important that you make sure that if you have any dizzy reactions to any of the fumes or anything like that, you know, just want to caution you, you know, to make sure that you're safe when you burn any type of fuel in the house.
And then what we use for our lanterns is the clean heat. We found that we really like that best for the lanterns because it puts off far less odor than the kerosene does. We have kerosene, and Mr. Rain can talk about that, but and we do use it from time to time in lanterns, but mostly the clean heat is our favorite. And I will go ahead and link to that below. However, I would think that you could find it for far less in your local store, because that is, even in our small remote town, it was about half the price to purchase it locally than it was to buy it on Amazon. But at least if I give you that link, I had one lady say that it cost even way more than that where she's at, so it might be a bargain for you to get it on Amazon depending on where you are at. But anyway, it is my recommended choice for lighting when you're using lanterns, oil lamps, all those kind of things, and we really like our oil lanterns. Though I do predominantly use the string lights for lighting, like I said in that one video, and I'll go ahead and link to that up here in case some of you are new and you didn't see it. But I still actually prefer the gas lanterns so much better because the light is natural and it's just a better light. I think it's better for your eyes. But we also try to be very conservative on our fuel usage because it is more expensive than plugging some LED lights into our solar power.
So you have a couple of different sources. You have K1 kerosene fuel for burning in your lanterns
And heaters, right?
and heaters, correct. That is more odoriferous. It has more of an odor to it that some people might get asphyxiated with it or just can't stand it and makes you sick or give you headaches or whatever like that. We like to use the clean heat fuel. We have about 10 gallons of that in storage, so it would take quite a while for us to run out.
We have 10 gallons of the clean heat.
Right, in 1 gallon containers, so that's quick, that's more mobile. And some of your bulk plants out there will have K1 kerosene where you can just refill your kerosene containers. And I just want to stress the importance of labeling your fuels with the proper colors that you have for the different fuels. I.e. you have red for gasoline, you have blue for kerosene, and you have yellow for
diesel?
Diesel, correct.
Oh, I thought green was diesel.
Well, the cans that I have, they're jerry cans, and they're just painted OD green. That's how we bought those. But yeah, your proper labeling for diesel fuels is
at the gas station
yellow.
is green too. At the gas station, the diesel ones are marked with green too. The diesel.
The handles.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I just.
But for storage.
Okay.
Yeah. they have the green handles on the diesel, and then there's on-road and off-road diesels that have different dyes in them. So you're supposed to, like, if you have a farm tractor or something like that, you can get the diesels that are red diesel, which is off-road diesel that doesn't have, it's non-highway taxed, but your green diesel is for your vehicles, your trucks and different things like that you have on the highway.
It's dyed so they can.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever.
Another subject. But anyway, so I'd like to store more diesel on site, but we only have 4 jerry cans of diesel stored here. I want to caution everybody, if you have diesel and kerosene, both work similarly, and there is a bacteria that naturally grows in diesel fuel and kerosene, and the way to test to see if your fuels are contaminated is to see if it's cloudy or not when you go to pour it into a clear container, and usually that stuff will settle at the bottom. So when you get to a bottom of a can, that's with gasoline, as well, the water will be beaded up at the bottom of your container. So when you go to use the last little bit of fuel, you want to be very cautious that you're not dumping a whole bunch of contaminants into your gas tank. Yeah. You can filter diesel fuel, and you can also filter your kerosene and to save a little bit on the wear and tear on your equipment. A lot of your heavy equipment, they'll have sediment bowls in them. They'll also have filters in them, diesel fuel filters, to clean that diesel as it's coming through, because some of your equipment out there will last, you know, they might set several months before you start them. This time of year when people are starting up farm equipment, you know, obviously you're going to be using them quite a bit in the springtime, but all winter long they might sit idle and not be rammed so they can collect moisture. I recommend in a diesel engine that you keep a full tank, because what you're going to have is you're going to have warming and cooling. You're going to have condensation in that void, in that airspace inside the fuel inside the fuel tank. Now with your on-site storage of diesel and kerosene, we have kerosene in 5-gallon containers that have been sealed from the factory, and I would encourage people, if they have you know, don't use that diesel, or don't use that kerosene and open that kerosene until you know, have plans on using that up.
Right.
And then just make sure that that kerosene's sealed up.
Yeah, and from what we understand, that as long as it's kept in the metal cans and in a cool, dry place, it can last for decades.
Yeah, they you know, there's some people out there will say, oh yeah, don't go over a year without changing out your kerosene, and then there are other people that say it can last for decades. So
I think it really depends on how it's stored.
I think the consistency of storage in my opinion, a cool, dry environment out of the sun. You know, you don't want sun breaking stuff down, because sun has a deteriorative factor on fuels as well. I
believe if you're storing the kerosene in the plastic cans or jugs in the blue, then it's supposed to last about a year, but you need to use it up within a year. But if you're storing it in the metal cans, it can last for much longer. So.
Right. But that's totally up to you guys. I mean, wherever you're at in the world, that's going to vary. And I would just say experiment with it. You know, have a small container, maybe an opaque container that you might keep, like a 1-gallon container, and just set it on the shelf and see how long it lasts. Storage of fuel in the heater that you're going to use, or in the lamp that you're going to use. Some of those things that don't operate a lot, or it might be years before you use it. It's recommended that you evacuate all of the fuels out of your lanterns that you're not using, and your little gas stoves and different things. I'm not the best at that. I usually try to keep those things topped off. I actually have a little mobile camp stove that I keep in the vehicle in the event I get hung up someplace, and I always keep white gas in that, and it should actually be changed out at least annually. But if you really want my opinion, you should probably change out anything that you might be storing in an environment that is hot, cold, dry, wet. I would recommend at least gasoline not to be gone over 6 months. How I know, I've worked with gas enough to know what gas smells like and looks like when it's starting to go bad. It'll have a little lacquery look to it. It'll kind of have a almost a light brown color to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's old fuel, it's old gasoline. So keep that in mind. Sometimes you can mix a little fresh gas with that and get that stuff used up, but probably not the best for your motor. So that just about pretty much covers it until we get off the camera and realize that we forgot something major.
Right, like we always do. Till someone brings it up and it's like, oh yeah, we
forgot about that. But anyway, again, we welcome all of your guys' comments. We appreciate you guys viewing our content. And if you have anything to add to that, if you have any ideas of how you store fuels and what you use for fuels, leave that in the comment section below and share with us and others what you guys do.
And also don't forget to mention, when you do that, mention your location roughly and what your climate is like, and so there can be some comparisons, you know, because like with us, obviously we're very wet, we're cooler climate. Some people, it's going to, you know, as he said, it's going to depend on where you're at, so it would be good if when you include that information you throw that in there too, so we can compare all those different things.
Well guys, thanks for stopping by, thanks for watching.
Take care.
And God bless.